I think everyone's very struck by your use of that visceral term, shock, that is often a creative impulse for you. Is that, I'm curious, I want to talk about process, because I think people are very interested in that. When the shock has occurred, and the creative impulse is there, you see what you want to do.
No, I don't see what I want to do.
Sorry, you're compelled to do.
I see that I want something to do.
Right.
It's not clear in the beginning.
And does that generate a series of possibilities, or do you have to keep having the shock each time you begin a different work?
No, the problem is for an artist that he has always this war in his head. He starts a painting, and then after a certain time, there are different possibilities to continue. And you have to decide, and perhaps it's a wrong decision, and you leave 100 possibilities behind you, so you killed 100 paintings. You know, you read once a book of François Gillot about Picasso?
Yes.
And you remember that she had to, you know, he made his paintings, Picasso, and she has, on a certain state of the painting, she has to do a copy. That he had the state of the painting for later, when he made a mistake, you know. He could go back to the first state of the painting. It's not very feministic, I know, but...
but also...
Do you remember this?
Yes, but also I suppose that was also that the creative journey is... There's always different roads you can take at every stage.
Yeah.
And he wanted to go back and see if he went in different ways, I suppose.
Yes, it's wonderful. If you have your paintings in a certain state, you have 10 paintings with different states, later you can continue each state as you want. It's fantastic, no? I don't have François Gillot.
No, you don't. but you do have assistants, but I think people are very surprised to know in this day and age that painting is still fundamentally a solitary activity for you. How do you work in the studio?
Yes, in my studio, nobody comes in. I have a big studio, but I have a part of the studio, I'm working alone.
And so it's this physical communion and intellectual and emotional communion with the work. Do you change your state of mind when you're working? I mean, I'm thinking about the trance idea. I mean, Pollock's idea that you go into some kind of physical trance. Are you conscious or unconscious of what you're doing when you're working?
No, when I'm starting, when I'm working on the painting, in the color, I'm unconscious, because you need sometimes unconscious. You know that some takes drugs, I don't need this. So to be unconscious. But then you have a result, and then the result is there, and you look at it, and then starts conversations, intellectual conversations. You look what it means this painting, what it tells you. And then you decide if you do this or this or this. And you go back in a unconscious state again. And so it repeats.
Do you have to escape yourself sometimes? Do you look at a work that you're making and think, that's too much of a Kiefer, that's too much of what's expected? I mean, is there an element of, with success and a kind of signature style, that one gets trapped by it?
Oh yes, you can get trapped. You can get trapped. You know, when I paint and I have a moment of excitation,
excitement or
excitement,
revelation.
Then, by experiments, I know this is dangerous, because then you are perhaps copying something you like so much, you know? You're copying perhaps Van Gogh or something else, and this excitation comes from something else. And then but with the experience, you know that if you are excited, be careful.
I'm getting very excited. At what point in the process, I mean, it may not be consistent, but at what point in the process, generally, do you realise where it is you want to go? Or do you never know till you've got there?
No, you cannot start to paint without a concept. I know what I want to do. So, by experience, I know that it doesn't stay like this. You know, then you know that you will not follow it, because you change it. But on the beginning, it's very paradox, but on the beginning you have to believe in it. You know, you have to believe in your concept, and you start. A day, 2 days, 3 days, sometimes a week. And then you see this leads to another thing. and then you do the other thing. But you have to have a concept, and you have to persuade you that the concept is good, while knowing that's not good, you know? It's very paradox.
Yes. Yeah. And we've mentioned time. I mean, time often is a subject of your work, but also work, as you've said, can take a matter of weeks. But sometimes you leave works, and I was going to say return, but you said you never go back. You move round again, and the work's there that you want to work with. Is that something, again, that just becomes apparent when you're doing it? I'm just conscious of how you harness different ideas, forces, works left outside, how different processes and how time plays with the work.
No, sometimes you have to ask for some help, you know, and ask the nature for help. You know, in the philosophy of the nature, some philosophers say that the nature is like us. They are not, was heißt erlöst, redeemed or erlöst? Nobody helps me.
Redeemed.
Redeemed. So the nature self is not redeemed, you know, it's uncompleted. So I asked the nature, who is not redeemed either,
yes,
to help me. So I put the painting in the rain, in the frost, and sometimes in chemical solution, what is called electrolysis.
Yes.
So this helps because it produces a new chaos. So sometimes when you paint on a painting for 1 week, and then all of a sudden it's so equilibrized, it's so harmonic, it's so nice that you think it doesn't work, you know, and then you have to put it somewhere that it gets again chaotic.
When you physically attack paintings, or that's a motive word, but you use knives or an axe, or you have attacked, sorry, I keep using that word, or you use a fire, a flamethrower, does it feel like a violent act to you? Does it feel like a violent confrontation with an object?
I don't know if it's violent. It looks violent, yes. But for me, it's not violent. It's a dance. I dance, you know, I dance around. And
you also...
It's a tango.
A tango with a flamethrower. You also mentioned chemical and this, I mean, the art for you is partly a process of transformation. And of course, all artworks over time transform, they decay and so on. But I'm very interested in the very recent work, the canvases, the Morgenthau plan at the Royal Academy. But we've seen it in other work too, where this electrolyzed sediment, this green copper sulfate solution, is physically changing, if not before our eyes, over a matter of days and weeks, the surface is changing. Is that something, I mean, it's an old idea in your work, but is that something, does it feel a new direction that you're experimenting with changing surfaces?
No, it's just the fulfillment, what I wanted since a long time, that I get surprised, you know? I get always surprised. I was in the show when I did it 2 months ago, I saw it, and then some paintings changed, you know, from the new paintings, they get more green or more yellow. And I like these surprises, you know, because the motivation to work is to be surprised, not? To be surprised. When you have a new laugh or something, you want to be surprised, no? Okay.
You do. Those surfaces, actually, if you look at the catalogue and you look at the surfaces of those canvases now, those paintings, there's a fundamental and marked difference. So it's ongoing.
No, it's also the climate of London is very good for the paintings. Change quicker.